According to census figures, Leonora has the highest number of single-person households in the state. May also be a good place for single ladies to find single men, as 900 of the 1,300 residents are men. Leonora, usually dry as a bone, is sometimes hit by cyclonic rains. These events have happened a number of times since the area was settled, one of the worst being Cyclone Bobby in 1995, which produced a flood that cut the town off for 6 weeks. The only supplies to reach the town were dropped at Laverton by the RAAF, and then trucked to Leonora on the only passable access road. Flooding like this seems to happen about once in every 20 years. The town is reasonably well equipped, with 2 hotels, a motel, supermarket, butcher, combination newsagent liquor and hardware store and general store, plus a post office, 2 roadhouses and a cafe. A good bush camping site is also available at Malcolm Dam, although this is likely to be a dry weather only site. The first gold find in the area is credited to a man named Morrissey in 1894, but better finds were made in 1896, and the original town, known as Gwalia, flourished until 1898. After severe flooding, it was relocated in 1900 3 kilometres from the mine and renamed Leonora. The town was developed to support the Sons of Gwalia mine, which operated until 1964. The mine was later reopened in 1981 as the price of gold increased. The Sons of Gwalia gold deposit was discovered in about April 1896 by the prospectors Carlson, White and Glendinning. This was only one of a number of finds in the Leonora district, but was to prove the most significant. The Great Tower Hill mine began operating after a gold discovery by Jim Breen in July 1896. Initially it did well, and eventually produced about 18,000 ounces of gold, but then the gold ran out, and it ceased operation by 1908. The old mining settlement at Gwalia still exists as a museum town. It's a fascinating place to visit, and we'll be covering that in a separate video. Edward Dudar Sullivan from South Africa and his partner Harry Widdick pegged the first gold lease in Leonora in 1896, naming it the Johannesburg lease. Other leases were soon pegged, and the settlement of Hessian and timber shanties grew up rapidly. In December 1896, Warden Owen approved the establishment of the Leonora town site. The town's name comes from Mount Leonora, which was named by John Forrest. It's thought that Forrest named the hill in honour of his niece, Miss Phyllis Leonora Hardy, of Grove Farm near Perth. Some sources quote the name Frances Leonora Hardy, and we're unable to determine which name is correct. More substantial buildings were soon constructed, and a butcher's shop, bank and post office were established in 1897. The Exchange Hotel was transported from Fremantle in prefabricated sections. By 1899 there were 3 hotels, 3 bakeries and a variety of shops. Police and fire station, a school and Wesleyan church soon followed. A Cobb & Coast stagecoach service to Coolgardie also began to operate. The weekly newspaper, the Mount Leonora Miner, was established on the 8th of July 1899 and was to become the longest-running newspaper in the region apart from the Kalgoorlie Miner. Leonora was surprisingly well catered for, as there was also a cordial factory, mechanics institute and a racecourse, as well as a state battery to crush mined ore. When the population reached about 1,000 people, Leonora was proclaimed a municipality in 1900. By the following year, Leonora was connected by steam tram to Gwalia. The service was converted to electric in November 1908 and was the first electric tram service in the state. The power station burned down, and the tram service was converted to petrol in 1915. It continued to operate until 1921. In 1902, the town was linked to Perth via Menzies by rail. In the book 20th Century Impressions of WA, written in 1901, it states, "Hotels and different large business establishments have a most imposing appearance, being constructed mostly of brick. Other buildings are composed of adobe, and although somewhat sombre in colour, they have the merit of being substantial." By 1908, the Bulletin described Leonora as the nation's most progressive town. Many early buildings still stand today, including the Grand Hotel in Tower Street, with its magnificent facade. The hotel was constructed in 1900 and featured 2 kitchens and a large stone-lined cellar. Another impressive Tower Street building, the Barnes Federal Theatre, was opened in 1901 with a capacity for 1,000 people and was known as the best hall of its size outside Perth. The first mayor of Leonora, William Albert Snell, rode a bicycle across the Nullarbor to Melbourne in 1897. He accomplished this feat in just 26 days and was only the second person to cross this way. In 1996, a project was started to restore some of the old miners' cottages at Weir. The buildings are available now for tourists to wander through and see what living conditions were like for the miners in the early days. Drinking water in the area has traditionally been high in salt and nitrate. In 2005, a reverse osmosis treatment plant was opened in order to improve water quality. The treatment plant has the capacity to supply 2.5 million litres a day. In 2010, a mining workers' hostel was converted into an immigration detention centre. This was not long-lived, however, and closed in 2014.